we can go back and we can have a look at some of the links that people have referred to. But it's going to be quite, I mean, the only problem with that is, Nick, since we've run 19 discrete events over the last 2 days, going back through all that chat and discovering that stuff is going to be quite a job.
Might, might not be worthwhile, but yeah, I just thought I'd ask. But
I think they knocked it out.
So, so Nick, did you have I've missed more of these than I've seen. So, in your vast experience, what do you think is the best way to organize this?
I think it's as Steve suggested, Brent. We've got questions and answers that all the attendees can pose on the Q&A, or if they want to, in this last session, to put up their hand, we could actually bring them in. We could promote them briefly as a panelist. We could turn on audio and video, and they could pose a question directly to any of the presenters we've got on screen. So, and apologies if I haven't quite found all the presenters that gave their presentations. Just send us.
I made a list.
Yeah, no, I have got them, but I'm trying to scroll. We did add you in as panelists for the final session, but if you've logged in with a different email address from the one that we put originally, then you weren't automatically found by the software. So I'm working. I keep scrolling up and down the list of 189 people to find out who I've missed.
So raise your hand if we don't have a hand raising yet, do we?
Yeah, we don't have a hand raise, so the panelists can't raise their hands, but the participants can, the attendees can.
So if a presenter is stuck in participant limbo, if he'll raise his hand, it might make it easier to find, now.
Yeah, good idea.
Okay, Nick, it's Bill, G-QRP.
Yes,
got sound, hello, but I've got no video, and when I turn it on, it tells me it's being turned off by the host. Ah, it's just come up now and said, got it. Great. You must have read my mind. That's good. Thank you.
Same problem. Got it.
Hi, Pete. Welcome back.
Hey guys, big kudos. Big kudos. What an amazing event. You guys pulled a huge rabbit out of the hat. Congratulations.
Well, you played your part,
really good job.
Shall I take that first question? We're on time.
Yeah, Brent's in the chair, Steve. But yeah, far away with the first question. Yeah.
Okay, so the question is, would you consider implementing these webinars into the QRP convention along with a physical meeting? And the answer to that is yes, we will. We'd already agreed once we saw the numbers coming in to the support for the convention that there was clearly a demand for online access, and that works both ways, both for members who cannot travel to physical conventions, but also for people presenting who probably wouldn't want to travel from California to Telford or somewhere else, and so it expands our sort of remit both ways, both from people attending and people presenting. So if we are allowed to have a physical meeting next year, and looking at the stats that have just been published, who knows what lockdown situation we'll be in this time next year. But if we can do a physical convention, we will definitely be doing online meetings in parallel.
Right.
And then Ian's saying to thank everybody. Well, yeah, lots of mutual backslapping going on, I think, and it's just great to see that all the work that we put into making it happen has actually come to fruition. And to all the presenters, we could not have done this without you, and to the attendees, we couldn't have done it without you either. It's been lots of interaction. I think the chat, the questions. Somebody just put a comment up that having that live interaction really lifts it from just sitting watching YouTube videos all day.
Can I give people a couple of stats? Someone did ask earlier in the chat. We've had the maximum, the largest number we had in any one single event was the opening webinar, and we had 369 unique viewers in that one. In total, we had 543 discrete viewers at some stage over the weekend, and people have watched 175,000 minutes of the webinars and meetings, which is an extraordinary statistic, over 19 discrete meetings and webinars over the last 2 days. So it's been absolutely amazing participation.
Yeah. I just
somebody asking if...
So I've just spotted a question in the chat there. Could we have a G-QRP club night on a regular basis? We did talk about this when we started the convention road, and we said we would see how things went. The big question is who's going to organise it, because we're all busy people and with limited time. But yeah, maybe the next thing will be a group build along or something like that. But we certainly intend to do more of this sort of thing. We just need to think about how we do it.
I think a group build-a-thon would be a great idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There was a lot of interest in Pete's SSB rig and doing a module a week. I'm up for that. That'd be great. Maybe a Mauser. Do you have Mauser in the UK or something?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
So one thing I like about Mauser is they let you publish and share a parts list, so somebody could make up, here's what you need from Mauser, you click it, you place the order, and everybody's got the same bin.
Yeah.
Take out what you don't need. Let's see. Somebody was asking whether the videos are going to be available to non-members, non-participants in the
Okay, so the plan for that is for us to make them available to attendees probably within the week. You paid your £4, dollars, whatever it was. So it's only right that you get first access to that. We will make them available probably on a club YouTube channel or something like that in good time. My sort of unofficial thoughts are maybe that will be a Christmas present to the world, but we'll see about that.
Les is asking the perennial question. Okay, now how do we get young people into QRP? Does anybody come up with the answer? Wait.
maybe I can say something here.
Go on, Ron.
Yes, because I'm a bit working on that. What I find is important to go where the young people sit. And sadly, you usually don't find them in the radio clubs, but look for maker and hacker spaces. So that's why I have my magnetic loop antenna projects all on Hackaday.io, because there it mainly attracts many more younger people. And in the same way, I sometimes give presentations in hacker and maker spaces to make amateur radio more present. So I think it would be good to look in that direction.
Look at what they want to do and show and show up and say, if you had radio, you could
yes,
you could do that. And there is quite a lot of cross-link, and people don't realize how much easier some of their problems would be if they had some radio knowledge.
Or build some easy kit. I was even thinking about a project not with radio at all, but use optical comms. And I did it for an experiment with LEDs and run Whisper or FT8 over LEDs, and you can bridge quite a distance, and people are amazed what you can do with weak signal communications. And then the next step can be for them maybe to go to radio.
I've been putting together a presentation for clubs and for individuals, and I posted the link in the chat. It's tiny.cc/YIAR, Youth and Amateur Radio. And I've been working on that. That's a project I started this summer. I'm the section youth coordinator for Ohio in the ARRL. And we finally had our first meeting of section youth coordinators from the league this summer. We've really never been working together. So we're trying to work together to improve that aspect of things. But it
Yeah.
is a complex problem, and right now is probably a better time for planning than actually hands-on involvement because of the school situation in a lot of places. But it is a good time to start planning on those aspects.
Yeah, hopefully that the technical coordinators will have a similar type of nationwide thing. I'm a technical coordinator for Northern New Jersey, and other than me reaching out to the other TCs, I haven't really done anything like that, Anthony. I think we should hopefully we'll do that too. I did get a quick question privately on the chat. I just want to answer real quick. Dominic asked if he missed some of my presentations, wondering if I covered the N2PK VNA in my presentation, and I did not, so you didn't miss anything there.
Anthony, somebody was looking for that link you
Yes,
said,
I did the same thing I did the other day. I published the links to the presenters only.
I've just done it for you. Just done it for you, Anthony.
Okay. I got it switched over to all panelists and attendees. And also there was a request for recipes, and I love to cook, so I just passed out a link to a family cookbook, and so you can have some food after the convention.
Right. They want Pete to teach a pasta class. That'll be
Yeah,
good.
it looked like John M0MLE was asking John for some tips on tortellini. So
yeah, I sent out my Italian my Italian family recipe book there, so
okay.
Available.
Tortellinis will be made. So there's some questions about are we going to get the chat working for next time in a way that those yes, but we'll
yeah, I mean, I'll answer that one, Brent. The answer is yes, we will. I guess what we need to do is to read in more detail in Zoom exactly what the settings are we require to do it. And although we'd set up individual chat rooms, I hadn't realized, this is my confession to the world, I hadn't realized that every single room had to be set up by a discrete host under their email address that we'd allocated. And I'd happily chunt it in, set them all up in the main club account. And as soon as I opened one, it was absolutely fine. And when I opened the second one, it closed the first one, and managed to stop the end of Dom's presentation as well. So there were unintended consequences. And then when we did it today, for some reason, even though we'd enabled it, the breakout rooms didn't work. It didn't matter because there was only 60 of us in the room, and we had a nice chat, and it was great that Tex came in and talked about Sprat and showed people how he does it. But that's one of the things we'll get right next time, Brent.
Okay. Carl's asking about or mentioned a youth connection with SOTA. Do we have any of the panelists doing summits on the air, or there's islands on the air, and of course parks on the air you can do from the parking lot, but the summits are a younger person's game. Anybody do any of that?
I do SOTA, Brent, and I'm definitely not a younger person, but
okay.
no, but there's something occurred to me. I'm going to raise it with Steve later on, but we should make a point before an event like this of looking for a young person's contribution. There are some great young amateurs around in the world who would be able to make a fabulous contribution to this event, and when we do a next one, we should make a point of chasing them down and invite them.
I have to say, having been involved in the YOTA activity in 2017 and forming up the RSGB's youth committee, it's hard work. There's no doubt about it. There are some good young people out there. Keeping hold of them once they've discovered the opposite gender or whatever, and alcohol, that seems to be the point where you lose them. But it depends what you call young. I mean, I go to my local radio club in Bristol, and they still call me Young Steve, even though I've turned 60. It's like...
Right. I've heard people say over and over again, and it's certainly true for me. When you started off in ham, you were the youngest person in the room, and you go back and 50 years later, you're still the youngest person in the room.
You know, one thing you shouldn't lose sight of is these social media, and taking that idea of some of the young folks that are standing out in the hobby, and making some YouTube videos or TikTok videos to show them in a group. And the other thing is, I like to think that ham radio is a chick magnet. So if you're a young person, you got some, you know, young ladies around there, you'd say, yeah, that's a good idea for the hobby. But I think we need to take advantage of their means of communication. And it happens to be social media, Facebook, YouTube, TikTok, and maybe getting some of these younger, like the youth group. For instance, I saw the Hans Summers movie with the youth group where he was introducing the QSX. And it amazed me, all the young people in there, they understood what was going on. And I mean, it was a huge magnet. So more videos like that are put out could be extremely useful in really introducing young people to amateur radio and giving them something aside from just their cell phone.
Yeah, I've popped a link in the chat actually to a video that we made with the RSGB, which was aimed specifically at young people and getting them off the sofa and watching TV and getting them doing radio. And we got lots of role models and things to talk about why they were interested in radio. And it seemed to go down very well. It's been translated into several different languages and it's used across the world, which is brilliant. It doesn't seem to have had a massive effect in the UK, unfortunately, but we keep trying. I've got a question. While you're on, Pete, there's a question cropped up. If we were to do a club build of something like the simple sideband, obviously the club filter is in short supply. Would something like the Wes Hayward homebrew 9 megahertz thing slot in there, or is it better to go for a commercial option, do you think?
Well, I think, you know, obviously there are lots of options that you have. And of course, the just released paper from Wes does a couple of things. It shows you how to build a home brew filter, but then it takes the test instruments and saying, okay, now you can decide how good or how bad this is. So, I mean, it's linking a whole bunch of new technologies and the ability to create a filter. And I think, as I mentioned yesterday, there's certainly other filters that will pop in there. For instance, you could even use a Heathkit filter out of the HW series. You could use a Yaesu filter. INRAD, now I'm trying to contact INRAD. I've left a couple of calls to them. They may be shut down because it's a holiday weekend here in the US, but they had the model 351, which I've used in several rigs, and that is a good substitute alternative for the club filter. It's the only difference being it's 200 ohms, and I've indicated in there how you can match the 200 ohms, and it works quite well. And matter of fact, Ham here in the States contacted them a couple of months ago about supplying the filters for a club project, and they even offered a discount. So what might be cool is if they indeed will have those available, if they could be made available through club sales, you may be able to acquire them at a discount. So then offer them through club sales as an alternative to the club filter. But they work really nice. And as a matter of fact, I came up with a little, they even are so good, they provide you through hole matching capacitors, and they also provide you the SMDs. So what's really ideal is you got all the parts. If you want to do it SMD, you got the caps. If you want to do them through hole, you got the caps. I came up with a little interface board that'll take that filter, and you can cut up a little simple board, copper board, and the SMDs solder right to that. So you would take the crystals and you'd have an integral assembly that you could plunk right in there that's got all the matching caps in the in and out. So that is really easy to do. And so that would be the first alternative because you don't have, they've done all the hard work for you in terms of matching the crystals and providing you a known quantity. And that costs about $30, which of course is more than the club filter, but still, if you've never built a filter before, that may be a small investment to make.
Well,
I'll follow up on that. I'll follow up when that the guy that runs INRAD, Scott, he used to be the Ten-Tech guy, and as a matter, he was the head guy for Ten-Tech, and then he's got a couple of former Ten-Tech employees that work in the shop for him. Stan used to handle the customer service for Ten-Tech, works for him now. So they well understand. They're not just selling parts; they're hams, okay, and they understand the value of this.
I mean, what I would say, if we do a club project, build along, build-a-thon, whatever, we will make sure that parts are available. We wouldn't just enter into it and leave people out to find their own thing. We'll make sure that there's a sourcing thing, either
source,
through
yes,
or whatever. Excellent, excellent.
This may help answer, Mike's got a question about a more basic introduction to homebrew. He watched probably Pete's presentation, and there's all this talk about mixers and VFOs, and he needs you to go back to basics and how does he get started learning what all that means.
If he can send me an email to my email address, I'll send him the 2-part article that appeared in QRP Quarterly called Let's Build Something. And it starts out with the basics of building a direct conversion receiver. Now, the thing that's nice about that is it's not only the article itself, but there are a whole series of YouTube videos and other and there's a website to support that. So if you want to wind up a double balanced mixer, we show you how to do it. So there are 3 YouTube videos that show you how you actually wind one up, and it's a little dicey to make a double balanced mixer, because what's not only important is you have matched diodes. You got to exercise a little care in how you want that toroid. I mean, that becomes significant, but you can build one. And the Let's Build Something transceiver does have homebrew double balanced mixers in it. So I'll be happy to send them those articles, and that would get them started. That tries to take you from I've never built anything to you end up with a complete single sideband transceiver.
Somebody's asking, I think somewhere, the links. We got a lot of links, and I know we're capturing all this chat, and a lot of these links go in the chat. Maybe in addition, or instead of just dumping the chat somewhere, if somebody's going to go along and gather these links and put them in a useful format, which I realize is a chore.
You know, one thing with the when you get the recordings from Zoom, the text format can be parsed into a spreadsheet very easily, and you could pull those links out with a query. So won't be as bad as it sounds, because you can plow through the information pretty quickly, because I've had to do this before for another group, and the data you get does allow you to pull some things out.
Having been involved in kit manufacturing for many years, we've got the ideal guy sitting out there ready and waiting for us. I'm sure that if we talk to Hans, he will come up with an idea that we could put together. I think the QCX is probably a bit too advanced for that as a club build. I've got one sitting on the shelf, just arrived a couple of days ago. So I think we have to be very careful. We can look at it certainly in the future and decide the best route forward. And it's great to hear all the enthusiasm about going forward with the Build-a-thon.
Absolutely, absolutely.
You know, one thing you may want to take a look at is the phaser that I mentioned in my FTA talk. The way they arranged that kit was very interesting. They printed 3x5 index cards, and then the components were attached to those cards, and they referred to a specific card. So if you take a look on the Midnight Solutions website that does the phaser, I thought it was a rather unique way of planning out a kit so that people could follow along very easily.
You mean you don't throw all the bags on the desk and all the parts are there at one time? You mean somebody's organized that?
This was the most organized kit I've ever assembled before. You know, it would say go to the capacitor card, and they had both the values and the part numbers listed on there, and the things were either taped or they were looped through the card.
Pete, sounds like you've been looking at my bench.
You don't want to look at mine.
Oh, wait.
I'm just looking at if there are any questions for other panelists.
By the way, Steve, if you do a build-a-thon, and I'm sure other presenters, I'd be more than happy to zoom in as you're building the sessions, and to just to ride along with you, and you know, just share, hey, that works or that doesn't work, or you know, have you looked at this? I'd be happy to do that. Happy to volunteer for that. So
that's fantastic.
As long as it's not 2 o'clock in the morning here on the left coast.
Well, somebody was chatting on, I thought it was on the club email reflector about you know, it's easy to demonstrate using an overhead camera or something, and it is. But one of the reasons that we balked at doing it for this event is that it isn't just the presenter that needs to be able to show on the camera, it's the guys who are building. That if they've got something that doesn't work, doing the fault finding when you're standing next to them is difficult enough, but trying to do it through a webcam or that is that much more difficult. So we do need mentors and people who are willing to spend some one-to-one time with people if they've got a problem. And I relayed the story before. If something can go wrong, it will. And we did a build-a-thon somewhere, I can't remember it is, and a guy melted a relay. I didn't think it would ever be possible for somebody to do that, but he rested the soldering iron on the relay, and we just saw it slowly disappearing into the relay. It wasn't you, was it, Nick?
No. It's MOSFET's my thing, really, but yeah.
But it's that sort of thing that if that happens, how do you resolve that in a remote situation? So we need to think that through before we commit to anything, but we will do something. And probably start with something very simple.
Steve, I'm just looking on the Q&A, and Shirley's put about if we did. I mean, I think I would agree with Pete. Really, I think to ask people to home brew their own crystal ladder filter as well might be a step too far for a basic thing. But if we were to go down that route, obviously you need to buy a whole load of crystals and test them and test them. Whereas we've got an economy of scale here, aren't we? It would be good if we were able to get, a whole bunch of them rather than everybody going out and buying a truckload of crystals and doing it. And if there were people who wanted to do that, then we could maybe make that happen.
Yeah, absolutely. Everything's possible. We just need people to do it.
Here's a suggestion for you. It just came to mind. Farhan got all those crystal filters. He had the women's collective do it. Uma, the crystal lady, she did all the sorting, put all the crystals together, and maybe that's an option, is to have Farhan's crystal section put together 9 megahertz filters.
Absolutely.
I mean, they already have the skill set, they have the tools, they know how to do it, and you'd be happy helping out the women's collective as well. I mean, all those 12 megahertz crystals that are in the BitX radios, they were all built by just a few people. Yeah. So maybe that's an option, is to have them be like a subcontractor to put those crystals kits together, because they're all measured and you'd be all set to go. Maybe even make a little board that they'd put them in. I mean, that'd be using what's already in place to develop a crystal package. So I mean, that's where someone needs to talk to Farhan.
Yeah. All good suggestions and all being captured. So I think we'll take these forward and we will do something. That's for sure. But I think if we start simple and then work our way up, that's the way to go.
I've just noticed somebody out in Sydney says it's 3 o'clock in the morning and they're logged on.
Fantastic. I mean, it might be an appropriate point to say. I in one of the sessions I was in this afternoon, there was people there from 12 different DXCCs spread across all 3 IARU regions, and that really brought home to me the reach that we've got with this facility, and the dedication of people staying up late at night or getting up early, as Alan said the other day. Absolutely fantastic support, and I think that's Tony. Well done, Tony. And so Alan was up very early in the morning to join the opening yesterday. So fantastic dedication to the hobby and to QRP, which is brilliant to see.
Steve, it's Steve here, which is embarrassing. I think one of us needs to change your name, but I just like to say what a fantastic weekend it's been, and thank you very, very much for organising it and let me take part anyway. And I'm going to have to go now because I'm being called to say tea.
Well, before you go, I don't know if you saw it, but there was a comment in the chat just at the end of your thing from one of our Canadian audience who said that your talk had way exceeded their expectations. They were blown away. So thank you for what you've done as well.
Oh, it's more than happy to do it, and I'm sorry if it was a little bit UK centric, but I did help him out because I've pointed him towards some Digisons over in Canada, so that's useful. But thanks ever so much for letting me take part anyway, and I'll leave you in peace now. So
yeah, Steve, quickly before you go, is your RSGB book on antenna analyzing still in print?
The Emanagal one, yes, it's still in print. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And how the hell did you get a background like that? That's really clever.
I just played a video of one of the places I've been. So
Yeah. It got me concerned at first. I thought, my God, he's on a beach. But, there you go.
I was originally at the start of lockdown, basically. Then, unfortunately, I had to actually fly out of Bahamas back to the UK. Otherwise, I'd have been stuck out there for 6 months, which is such a shame.
Oh yeah, I think that is such a shame. Anyway, good. All right, I'll leave you guys to it then. Thanks very much indeed.
Thanks, Steve.
All right, cheers. Bye bye.
Thank you.
So Scott points out for U.S. hams, Kits and Parts already sells pre-matched crystals. So that's a resource. It might be available. Nick has got some polls. While we've got about 200 participants here, he'd like to query them on some things.
Yeah, thanks, Brent. Okay, first one, very quickly. Just to get a quick bit of online feedback from anyone. You can't say no, Dick. You're not allowed to.
Oh, there we go.
Watching the participants. When we get near to the top, I'll declare the results.
One of the questions while that's ticking up there is, what have we learned as panelists? I learned I need a bigger monitor for all these windows that are popping up here.
Well, we've certainly learned things, Tristan, and in terms of running these events, that's been a very steep learning curve, and we will be doing a lessons learned meeting very soon. But I think the one thing we have learned is that we've got to do more of it because it's been such a success, and that's my one sort of piece to take away is that any thoughts that we had that this wasn't going to work have just gone out the window. This has been brilliant. So there we go.
So apologies to the 50 odd people that hadn't quite got round to voting. You know, when you watch these game shows, you've got to vote straight away. We've got 99% saying yes. So thanks for that one. I'm just going to continue with running another one now. So don't think we're finished there. Quick question: what could we have done better? Obviously, slightly loaded questions, especially the last one.
Great.
Yeah, we did leave out chat rooms. That we pre-prepared this poll on the basis we were going to run chat rooms. We've already answered that one. We left them out.
Next time we'll try leaving them in. Well, highlights of the weekend. I hope to get some more highlights of the weekend when I get to watch some of the morning sessions and others that I wasn't able.
Is it my imagination, or it's the first time there's been a G-QRP conference or whatever, and we haven't actually had anyone discuss valves or tubes?
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I must declare at this point I was a tiny bit disappointed that the chat rooms didn't happen. I know it was technical problems beyond our control because there was going to be a valve one, and I wanted to see if I was going to be the only person in it or not. And I didn't get to find out, so maybe next year.
Yeah, Hans at least mentioned him a little bit in his talk. So,
Hans and I used to trade emails back in the day about all sorts of things. So yeah, he's as well into those, but he's obviously moved on to the dark side now.
Yeah, just to fill in there, we did invite a speaker to do a valve session. Unfortunately, he wasn't able to do it, and it was sort of neck and neck between that and an SDR, whether in terms of popularity from the survey we did. So we ended up with SDR rather than valve, but that's why we were going to do a chat.
It wasn't a dig, Steve. It was just one of those comments. It's just a...
Yeah. I'm certainly not complaining. I must admit, I think that the SDR would be a far better thing to have. I think it's just always useful to meet up with a few remaining nuts that like valve stuff if there are any left. But I wouldn't advocate a valve talk if it displays something more mainstream, I must say.
If you're trying to get youngsters into the hobby, I guess you probably need to get them more involved in programming and using SDR anyway.
Absolutely.
They don't want to get... Sorry, Pete, but they don't really want to get involved in learning how to build a filter. They want to learn how to do DSP programming, how FPGAs work and all that sort of stuff, or microcontrollers. They're not interested in melting solder anymore.
You say that, Dom, but if you'd seen the 90 QCXs we built at Yota,
I know.
You'd enjoy that.
It's 6 of one, half a dozen of another, basically. Yeah. There's an awful lot of youngsters out there who just will not heat a soldering iron out.
Yeah. True.
Look at.
No, I mean, look at that poll there. A lot of support there. Virtually a third of people thinking would have been good to include a build along. And thank you for the votes of confidence in terms of not running field webinars and meetings. We've run, I think, as I said, 19 discrete events over the weekend. And also people saying, and apologies to panelists, but I think we had quite a lot of time for questions to panelists in the events. One of the questions was, should we have had fewer speakers to give more time? And most people said no to that one. So I'll move on to the next question. I've got a few more for you. So big one here.
Why is that a multiple choice question?
Incidentally, there was an option for making it anonymous or not, and this is anonymous polling. So if one of you votes no, we don't know who it is.
So as far as young people melting solder, I'm not sure what the total demographic of Hackaday is, but I think it's a younger thing. And if you look at what's happened to the price of Nixie tubes and some other, there's a cool factor to valves, and it's not just geezers who started, whose first rig had tubes in it. There are people who want to do that just because it's weird.
There we go. 100% would support another G-QRP Club online event. So excellent. That's great. And got a couple more. Next one, I think everyone's going to say yes to this one, but Steve raised it earlier, didn't he, in one of the sessions, when we're able to organise a physical convention, should we run it, stream it online at the same time?
The next question to everybody is, how long is it before one of the other organisations does exactly the same?
Well, you're part of Archie, so you'd know that one.
I'm going to be pushing for it, believe me.
Well, the RSGB are doing their convention online in October, but they're only doing one day, so we've already got one up on them.
Yeah, but Steve, the RSGB, haven't they've been doing the sort of like the video things at 8 o'clock or something on Thursdays? Yeah. That's been going for a while now.
Yeah, it's started after we announced that we were doing this, but I know.
Yeah, so 100% support there. You'll be pleased with that, Steve, for streaming online a physical convention. And of course, it also means that we can have some of the fantastic speakers we had who perhaps aren't going to travel over for a day to Telford or wherever we hold it to speak, but would still be able to speak in person and online. So that's good. And I think I've got one more. So let's see if I can find it. Yeah, just a quick question. This is one for Graham, really, the treasurer. Do people think the £4 charge was a reasonable cost?
I think there's survivorship bias in that. People who didn't think £4 was a reasonable price aren't here to vote.
That's true. That's very true.
Actually, that seems too low. Believe it or not, for the value for what you get, and the opportunity to ask questions and to see some of the latest current information, that's a small price. If I use it roughly two to one, so that's $8. I mean, you can't get a McDonald's hamburger for $8.
Well, just to explain that, we did not do this to make money.
No, I know, but it was
purely
so
to cover our costs, and we've done that. And so yeah, I accept. You know, people. I see someone saying that the QRP club membership's too cheap, but we cover our costs. That's what we try to do, and we operate with total volunteer support, and it's brilliant that everybody chips in and does their bit. And to me, that's a fine example of what amateur radio is about, and exactly what George Dobbs had in his mind when he set this thing up. Self-help, we help each other and share knowledge and have that camaraderie.
Steve indelibly marked in my mind is one trip I made to the UK. We stopped at a pavilion that had a Burger King, And I remember getting a Burger King, fries, and a Coke, and it was £4.06. And I walked out there and I said, "That's $10." And it was more like a Burger Queen, not a Burger King. I mean, it astonished me. So £4 today, I mean, that was a long time ago. £4 today is a bargain. So yeah, you're just trying to cover costs. So if anybody complained about the cost, they shouldn't.
So
The
did we
one
get?
person voted against was me. I thought we were too cheap, and I would have thought we'd have quite easily charged £5. We'll discuss it next time we meet.
My wife would be more than happy to pay twice as much to get rid of me for 2 days.
There you go.
Isn't the £4 sort of like twice what the normal charge to get into the Telford Rally or the G-QRP Rishworth Rally was anyway?
No, I think we were at £3.50 last time we were at Rishworth.
Okay.
And
about on par.
It's about the same. And you don't have the travel to get there, of course.
Did we get a noticeable bump in memberships associated with people joining so they could play?
I have some data on that for you. Just following up on Nick's stats from earlier, we sold a total number of 538 tickets, which was 14% of the membership. And we had 71 new recruits or rejoiners. So welcome to those people who are still with us. And of course, they benefit because they'll be able to qualify for next year's convention as well, because we did a special deal cover from now until December 21, isn't it? Yeah. So yeah, great to see. But again, we didn't do it to generate money or members. It was to service the members because we couldn't have a real convention. So I think this was a real convention in many ways.
What's interesting, Steve, is we've got 189 people taking part on this conversation.
Yeah, absolutely, and from all over the world as well, which is amazing. Cool. Are there any questions for some other panelists about DXpedition? I know Dom didn't get to answer any questions because of the technical issues. I don't know if Callum's back with us for his DX Commander antennas and things, but I thought Callum was fantastic although he kept mentioning this thing called QRO, which I don't fully understand. But his approach of cutting and trying and testing theory and experimenting was entirely in line with, I think, the QRP ethos. And I know, having watched his channel, he has run QRP to see and amazed people that they were still making the same contacts that they were with full power. So I thought it was really good.
Yeah, I got a private question that if I had a discussion, actually, I thought that I'd talk about. Because during Pete, your presentation, you mentioned noodle first, solder last, and and to me, I mean, I guess I've always been a bit on the other side a little bit, and start building things and make mistakes. You learn so much more from your mistakes than you do from your successes, I think. And so it really, I think it comes down to, for me, some of the building and testing and things like that is part of my noodling. So noodling doesn't always have to be brain work. It could be simulation. It could be, it could be breadboard work. It could be, pen and paper. Whatever noodling means to you is not just, doesn't mean don't pick up the soldering iron. Because for some people that is the noodling piece of it too. So, but it really comes down to what your individual way of learning is. And to me, I've always been a hands-on person, so I like building things. And sometimes you let the smoke out. Some people like simulating things, but my view of the simulator is that simulator has no problems putting 10,000 amps through a 1N914 diode, right? It doesn't know you let the smoke out of it, so you got to be careful about that too.
Mark, you've got a question from a fan wanting to know if you run any events or activities in Scotland and if you're associated with any clubs there.
Well, yes, I am associated with the T-Exchange Moray Makerspace. Unfortunately, at the moment, because of the COVID-19, we do not do physical meetings, but otherwise, yes, quite often we meet on, I think it used to be the third Friday evening of the month in the village center in Findhorn. But otherwise, there's nothing planned at the moment because we all know the future is, we don't know.
Right. And there's a question for Bill. Is there a simple circuit you recommend for low battery protection, or are the commercial ones just too good or cheap to bother with making your own?
Yes, that's a good question. Yeah, if I looked at this little meter, which I had a look for somebody who was at the conference and emailed me because I couldn't find them, on our local Amazon, you can get 5 for £8. So what's that, about $11?
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't even buy the bits to make one for that. It's got a chip in it, does what I need to do. And I'm a great believer in building, but you just could not make that for the money. It's impossible. I made that, the voltage dropper and the PTC fuse in it, because you can't get anything like it anyway, and designed that out. And I like to put things together where I can. If I'd built that, it would have probably been about that size. And it would have cost a small fortune. So that's why I buy them.
Okay.
And they're voltage settable, by the way. They have a switch on them, and you can set the trip voltage on them. Impossible to see because it's built in the case, but just couldn't make it for it. I will make where I can. Okay, I hope that answers it.
Some people are asking about what next steps to increase Morse take-up. That could be interpreted 2 different ways. How do I get better at Morse, and how do you get more people to do Morse? And some people are struggling, and people argue or suggest CW Ops is obviously doing some really good work for helping people get over the hump.
You still have the old tapes that Gus made available on the club website. Shameless commercial section there that if people want to practice, yeah, encouraging people and I mean the bizarre thing is I found more people wanted to learn Morse as soon as it was no longer a requirement in the UK. And
I wonder if getting rid of, because a lot of us gravitated, you learn 5 word per minute Morse to get your novice license. It was the same way in the UK, and then had you not done that, it would have been way easier to learn a useful
absolutely.
speed. It was a horrible thing
absolutely.
to do.
You're learning it at 5 words a minute was the biggest roadblock in my learning, and still is. I mean, I learned it 45 years ago the wrong way,
Right.
and that because learning at 5 words a minute forces you to do the mental translation, right? You learn it, you picture it in your mind, you map it to the letter, and the problem is that methodology, instead of automatically going from the sound to the letter, is still a roadblock for me 45 years later. And I had a renewed interest in CW after many years of not doing it. I've had a renewed interest over the last 2 years or so, and I've struggled to get. I'm reasonably comfortable between 10 and 15 words a minute, but unless my mind is working right that day, I can't get to 20. And I think a lot of it is still because I learned it the old way, and it's so hard to unlearn that. So, but yeah, so using the Koch or Farnsworth method, learn the sound. That is really the key to it, and just practice. Even 15-20 minutes a day. That's the real key to it.
I just posted a link for a presentation I did called Fun with Morse, and it really talks about the fact that now that it's not required, people that want to learn it and some things. So that also covers all the different things we've been discussing as far as CW Ops, the Long Island group, all the different software that's available. And that's a program designed to give to your local club, to present to your local club, that maybe encourage some people to think about some CW operation. Also talks a little bit about the fact that it's better for QRP, and talks a little bit about contesting with CW.
I know contesting's not for everyone, but at the end of the day, if you're going to contest, basically, CW's really useful. Yeah. And if you really want to learn CW fast, put yourself on a DXpedition, basically. The bottom end of a pile-up is a nightmare if you don't know CW fast enough.
Yeah, it's great. I keep thinking I know CW, and then there's a CW contest, and I realize I know in a QCC sprint CW. I don't know 35 word a minute. that gets harder. Somebody, Roger points out that that there's a great synergy between CW and Melton Solder. If you want to start building radios, you can build a simple radio that you can use if you know Morse, and if you don't, you gotta step up before you get anything out of your work.
Yeah, I'd be really interested to learn if anyone knows how to put a CW key into a Lime or Lime Mini SDR radio, because I still can't work out how to do it. You can do all the digital modes, you can do the, anything SSB, AM, or whatever else, but trying to put a Morse code key.
Well, there's a problem with some of these on-the-chip SDRs is that there's no way to get that 700 hertz offset. It's just not in the hardware. I don't know if you could do it with two of them. They're cheap enough, but that's.
It's an interesting challenge. I'm sure someone out there maybe have thought about it, how to do it. So
Shirley says the receive latency is a problem. That
yeah, unless you just make a little code oscillator operate in upper or lower sideband and just do it's a modulated CW at that point, right? So I just use a code oscillator to create the CW in upper or lower sideband, and then you can stay tuned in the same place.
Yeah, that's true, Alan. But the thing is, then how do you key it? We're talking about a hand key as opposed to literally doing it using a computer.
Oh yeah. But it's almost like instead of the microphone, you replace whatever you're using as a microphone. Use just a tone oscillator, a code practice oscillator.
Yeah, it means the overall entry cost to using SDR with CW would be dropped enormously if someone could come up with a way of doing it.
Yeah.
So we've spilled over into the summary and closing. I guess we've done the polling. This has turned into. Nick, is there supposed to be a dividing line between these two?
Not at all, Brent. I think Steve, we'll hand over to you to put it all together and say the goodbyes, probably.
Okay, well, I've said thank you so many times today. I think I've worn it out, but thank you to the guys who helped us to organise this, and that includes Nick and Bill and Dave and Dick and Graham. And to Philippe, who designed the logo, and to all the presenters who've given up their time to be here and did their thing earlier in the weekend. I think I wrote down a quote earlier in the day, and I think it's the quote of the convention for me, and it was from John G8 SEQ, who said that there's no such thing as a non-resonant antenna. It's just being used on the wrong frequency. And I'd never thought of that before. I thought it was an excellent way of thinking of things. But no, I other than saying thank you to everybody, I don't think there's much else I can say. It's been an absolute hoot to do it. It's been life on a knife edge for the last 48 hours, but we've managed to survive. The small number of technical issues we've had, I think, pale into insignificance with the successes that we've had, and the fact the results of those polls speak for itself. We will have to sit down and work out how we do this again. Whether it's wait a year for another convention or whether it's we do something in between times, I don't know. I saw a question there from Tristan about could we have some sort of activity period. I'm not sure whether people would be able to get on the air and do the convention at the same time. But we can certainly think about getting the club station on the air during the convention. That might be an interesting way to go. But I would just encourage everybody to keep building things, keep operating, whatever your thing is, keep it QRP. And I'd love to see a barrage of logs for the winter sports. We run this every year between Christmas and New Year. It doesn't matter where you are in the world, get on the air, operate, submit a log, and we have a trophy for the best log. And that might not be the most contacts, it might just be the quirkiest log, I don't know. And we had a little bit of a debate earlier about where FT8 and FT4 fits in with our normal modes of operating. I mean, we don't differentiate between CW and SSB. Should we have a separate category for digi modes? I don't know. You will see something in the next sprat about that. Peter, our communications guy, has raised this because he had a log submitted for the Suffolk Trophy, I think it was, for this year. We've definitely ruled out Whisper as a mode. Just getting spots across the world isn't the same as having a QSO. We're not going to do that. But we certainly need to embrace the new modes for those people who want to use them. It's not compulsory, but if somebody wants to use FT8, FT4, why not? And whether that means RTTY is in the same bucket, we'll talk about it. And we'll come up with something so the winter sports will embrace Digimodes in some way. So hopefully we can get interest through that. And my final thing, having got a captive audience of QRP club members, there is now live on the club website a voting exercise for the new constitution. It's took us a long time to pull it together. We had to take legal advice on what we could and couldn't say and what was appropriate. But we've now got what we think is the right form of words. It's a balance between complexity and keeping it simple. The more you try and include, the more complex it gets. So we've got something which we feel as a committee is a right balance between keeping it simple but covering the basis. So please go on the website, have a look at the proposed words, vote whether you think it's good or not. Importantly, if you think it's no good, tell us why, because not going to just say, no, I don't like it. Why do you not like it? But it's up there now, it's live. It will be announced in the next Sprat, but if you want to get in early, you know about that. You've heard it here first, as they say. And I think that's as much as I want to say. Dick, do you want to add anything?
I was just going to say, Steve, that if anybody's got any comments on the Constitution, email me, g0bps@gqrp.com, and we will then discuss them. So, yeah, thanks, Steve. Been a great day.
Super duper. Graham, anything from your point of view?
No, I've really enjoyed it. It's I've watched most of it, not all of it, because you have to eat and do other things. But no, I've had a great time. We have made a profit, but the intention never was to make a profit. It's not a big profit, and I shan't be going to the Bahamas for my holidays, but it's done well. But thanks very much to everybody, and special thanks to all the people who put all the effort in to make it work.
Super. Thank you. Thank you. I don't know if Daphne's here. Daphne, you weren't here for the opening. Would you like to just pop on and say hello to all the people who you look after their memberships for them?
Yeah.
We're not getting any audio, Daphne.
Daphne's unmuted. Daphne, we can't hear you, unfortunately. Got no audio.
Guy.
There you are.
That's it. Yeah, you're on now.
Oh, okay. Am I on?
You're
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, sorry I missed the beginning. Things happened at home, and but I've missed most of it, actually. Normally Saturdays are very quiet for me, and I've had family round, and it was my birthday today, so I've been dropping in and out. What I've seen I've really enjoyed, and I'm looking forward to seeing the reruns. Seems to have generated a lot of new members with the convention, so that's all positive. And we've had a lot of M7s join the club in the last couple of months as well, which is quite encouraging. Obviously we're a mixture of young and old, but it's nice to see M7s joining the club. We've had quite a lot. So on the whole, pay your subs on time, that's all I'll say. I had a late payer yesterday. So yeah, that's all I've got to say. I've really enjoyed it, and I'm enjoying my job as a membership secretary, but I didn't realise just how busy I would be, but it keeps me out of trouble.
Super. Well, many happy returns, Daphne, from everybody, and thank you for all you do with the membership. It's another example of we couldn't do it without you. Yeah, round of applause. So on that happy note, I think I will say we'll draw this to a close. Thanks again to everybody for turning up. Oh yeah, for the benefit of the non-UK members, the M7 is our entry-level license. So it means that people have just qualified at the entry level, so what we call the foundation. So that they are by default QRP operators because they're limited to 10 watts. So that's good to see that we're getting some of those through. So there's 7 threes from me, and I guess we will see you again soon. Somebody was wanting to comment though. Go ahead.
Yeah. I just wanted to say something too. I mean, I, as part of my job, my day job, professional job, I do webinars and things like that, kind of professionally, and for industry and things like that. And I just have to say that for the size of this event, the number of attendees, the number of different programs and things like that, this was done amazingly smooth with so few hitches and glitches that it's really just a phenomenal job, just really fantastic.
Well, thank you for that. And yeah, it's just exceeded our expectations by an order of magnitude, and it's certainly been well worth all the effort that we put into it. So yeah,
Hey, Steve,
Nick, do you want to tie up the ribbons as you've sort of started us off?
Just let Pete come in there. So
yeah, I just want to make a short input here. As Bill and I frequently say on the Solder Smoke podcast, if you're not a member of the G-QRP club, you're wrong. And we say that because it's such a wonderful organization and such a wealth of information, and they do so much. And we say that all the time. You can listen to the Solder Smoke podcast and we'll say it. You're wrong. So you'll hear that from us again. And that's an input to Daphne. We're trying to spur up some members for you.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
yeah, Steve, thank you, and a big thank you to Alan for his comment just then. A group of us, I think, have put in. Steve said it earlier today. What seems like months of work, it's actually only a couple of months to prepare for this and put it on the road and get everyone booked up and everything. Keeping it going over the weekend, as Alan will know, is like juggling. You're trying to keep about 100 balls in the air at the same time. And we only had a couple of little hiccups, and I don't think it's in any way detracted from the event. So thank you for your comments, Alan. And I'm just delighted how well it's gone. And I'm particularly keen that when we are able, and it's not just in the UK, but in the rest of the world, get back to running events physically. We also run them online at the same time. I mean, it's not that technically not that difficult. And it would be great to see the next G-QRP Club convention actually taking place in a hall somewhere with meeting streams and speakers, but the whole lot streamed live at the same time so that the rest of you for the rest of the world can take part. And it's been like a fantastic day on, well, 10 meters when it's alive. Those of you that remember 10 meters when it's alive, but a couple of times in the sessions looking at ZL, VK, JA, W6, VU, I mean, all over the world and across Europe, as well as the UK, of course, taking part. That just tells us that we're doing something right. Amateur radio is a fantastic hobby, I believe, and it is still relevant and it's still of great interest. And I'd just like to give my personal thanks to all the presenters and the hosts and the co-hosts for all their work over the weekend. So thanks, Steve.
I do my presentation now.
I've got to go. I can smell my tea burning.
Okay, I think we'd better hit the end button and say 7 threes to everybody. And we will look forward to seeing you all again very, very soon.
Thanks, Steve.
Cheers, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye, everyone.
Bye-bye. 7 threes from the left coast.